because memories, details about exactly what happened can fail. Especially as years go by, 40 years, 50 years is a long time, actually. Many details can fail. But what's interesting is that the impression that Prabhupada made is as vivid as it is today in those who were in it. It's Prabhupada was, just a moment's impression of him is not something that will give you an impression for life. We have here actually, all of you know Ulrich, Dr. Ulrich. How many?
Which one?
Some of us know Ulrich. He's actually not, probably not all of you know him, because he's been not living in Copenhagen for the last 10 years or something like that. But he was very active here, and still very active in the other part of Denmark, somewhat on his own. He's actually German, he's a little, now he must be in the 60s. And so he's German, he's from somewhere near Hamburg. And he once told me, I think he told me, that actually, first time he saw Hare Krishnas, then that was in something where in 69 or something like that. So that was actually when the first devotees were in Hamburg. Then he at that time he actually saw a few devotees make Harinam on the street, and then he told that he was actually there, and then he was interested, and then one young devotee tried to grab him and like that, but he didn't want. But then what interesting was there was an old Indian man with him also, and he was, and then he came up and actually was such a smiling person. And in any case, I thought, no, he was so easy. And then, but this old, and Ulrich told actually this old man, he made such an impression. Then I said, Ulrich, that was Prabhupada. It must have been Prabhupada. He hadn't realized that actually he had seen Prabhupada. You know this one? Yeah, he told. So, but the face of Prabhupada, is actually such a, one is effulgent, but friendly and kind, and he could also, of course, sense that Ulrich, he was not ready to be grabbed and put into this. But Ulrich had this that just brief encounter, but he has the impression of Prabhupada is imprinted in his mind that it's not going to, he cannot get it out again. It's like. So Prabhupada makes, and he made all the time. That's one thing that was interesting also from Prabhupada. Sometimes, others, some, we might all have like flashes of, being brilliant for a second like that. But Prabhupada, he was like every moment the Lord was just sitting observing him, and he was making, he was so. It's like Krishna at every moment performed pastimes. Prabhupada also, was manifesting leelas. Just emanating transient consciousness at every moment, which makes such a vivid impression on people. Enjoy.
Yes. I have to say a few words.
You have to say a few words.
Yes, I have to.
Okay, you have to. And it's just a few, it's not a lot.
No.
It's okay, it's not also. But,
No, okay. I have to say a little few words, because most of you have been associated with ISKCON since 1972. Long time ago, and I'm already 82. At that time, I was in Sweden for 10 years, from 60 to 70, and I was working with the Swedish television. I'm a journalist by profession, and I was working with the Danish radio also. My first encounter with Prabhupada, because I wanted to know this man, because I saw some procession in Copenhagen in 1973. I stopped my car, I went to this, I do not know what this, shaped and everything, that they are giving this Back to Godhead magazine. And as you know, that I am a journalist, naturally I am interested mostly in the articles and writing and everything, intellectual things, mostly. I must admit that. When I remember one gave me 3 copies of Back to Godhead. At that time, Back to Godhead was publishing from Prabhupada himself, was the editor. And I got surprised. What is wealth it is. What is really is gold mine. I was so surprised. I have read lots of other books in my history, in my other time. But I understood the spirituality in that way explained such a small magazine. I never expected that it can be published anywhere in the world. And then I thought, that is must be very interesting to see. And then Prabhupada, I knew it already before other sources. And then I saw in the magazine some address, New York address. Then I wrote to them, and then I wanted to subscribe this magazine. And then I had it. Since 1974 to 78, 79, first magazines, all the magazines. And then I was reading every day when I used to get this from the post office, once in a month. And then I used to go it and consume it like a hell, like that. Oh my goodness, that's a fantastic, that I've never thought of. And I must say one thing, that is, I am a Bengali. Prabhupada's language is my mother tongue. And since from my childhood, my mother was a devotee of Krishna, since I was a little boy. So I crawl, and that time, when mother used to give me our old house, there was a Krishna's figure was there. My mother used to give this some batasha, in Bengali we call it, and some of the small fruits and other things. I used to steal that. When mother used to close the eyes and call friend to Krishna, I used to steal that before. I could not wait until I can get that. And that is the way mother used to open the eyes and say, oh, I see. Who has taken those things, the fruits and everything? I disappeared from the room right away. That is the way my beginning with Krishna. And that is the way I have been attached so much with ISKCON. And I still have the first edition of Srimad Bhagavad Gita, whole complete. And because that was a symbol for me, it is like a honey for me, spiritual honey. And that was the reason why, funny thing is, you have observed many times, that I have not taken any diksha, though I am with the ISKCON for the last 35 years. No. The reason is that some of our Mataji told that in their dream, I had so much dream with Prabhupada and all the talks with the Krishna, that is, the day Krishna, Prabhupada, I wanted very intensely to meet Prabhupada. And then I had the connection to the Danish television, I had the mass media. And then I thought, oh, I can make interview with him. And then I used to tell the others, please tell me if Prabhupada comes to come to Germany or Stockholm. There are some of the bhaktas, I can't remember their name anymore. And when they informed me that Prabhupada disappeared in 77, I was so sad that evening. After 2 days, Prabhupada disappeared, and then I got the telephone, and that he disappeared. I was so sad, and I don't know how I can express that, and that I didn't meet this great man, Mahatma, in the sense, in my intellectual life in the world. And then I thought myself, oh, and then suddenly I lost this man. I could not meet, I have sorry, I have to say my professional voice, I have met lots of president, prime minister, many presidents from the television point of view, but not this particular man. I wanted so sincerely to meet this man and to make a publicity Not obviously, it's not necessary, but I wanted to meet this man because he's something extraordinary man. And then when that evening, like a dream, a mother said, I had a dream 2 days after Prabhupada disappeared. And then I saw Prabhupada's picture and some of the things which came to me intensely. And then I suddenly saw Prabhupada there in my dream, and then I said, oh, in Devani, Gurudev, if I will speak to Devani with him, in my dream. And then I told him, oh, Gurudev, I have never met you. I really sense the Lord to meet you. Then he smiled at me and said, don't bother, because I wanted to really know you. And then he smiled and he told me in my dream, that is, don't bother, I'll meet you. And that word, I'll meet you, that word really resounded me still today in my age, all these years, hunting me, I'll meet you, no problem, in Bengali. And then I thought, decided myself, no, when I didn't get Prabhupada as my master, I will not be taking him as master in my life. He is my master, intellectually, spiritually, every respect in my life. I will not take any master in my life. That's the reason why I have not taken any diksha for anyone. I have been connected with the Vrindavan and Mayapur for many, many years. And I have donated money, quite a lot of money, because I am a single man. But I have never, also here in this particular here, you are sitting here, that I have done it, because I know the Prabhupada has taught me that is when you leave this world, nothing will go with you. Nothing, even your sharis or your breath, nothing, anything, the fondest thing in your life, you can take it with you. You can't. So that is the only way you can do it. Do the things done and Krishna, and then you have done everything. Your life will be fulfilled. And that is the Prabhupada's message. I got it. That's the reason why I'm connected so closely with this God for so many years. But I still, deep in my heart, Prabhupada is my Gurudev, and that's why I could not take this dikha. That is the thing I wanted to take in this. This is the secret of my life.
Actually, when I think about it, actually, that as a journalist, you would actually have a very good chance for meeting Prabhupada in the interview, because Prabhupada was very happy and very eager to meet journalists, and he had so many interviews with different kinds of journalists and also intellectuals, academicians, so actually, if you had, for example, when Prabhupada visited Sweden in was that 74?
He was in Stockholm.
Yeah, Stockholm.
And I got the message 5 days after.
5 days after.
Yeah, 5 days after, too late. I could not fly.
Probably if you had flown to London, he was there more often.
No, but I didn't know anybody because I was really shy that way. I didn't know.
Shy?
No, shy in the sense that is, I approach very easily to everybody, with the politicians and the dictators, everything. But I was shy in the sense that is such a great soul that I had a tremendous respect and devotion that way, that man. And from my childhood, I know Krishna from my mother. So that's the reason. That's the reason why I kept myself in that way. And that's why I wanted to see him and wanted to have him as Gurudev. But
Prabhupada was a little, scary for some to be around, because, and it's also, you say like that, because sometimes some are a little afraid of big people, prime ministers or rich people or influential people like that. And when you get to know them, you find that they're very common and ordinary, little boys, and they are often quite mediocre, most of it, isn't it? Like all of us, we are not saying that I'm better than him. I'm also mediocre. But then just like, the rest of us. But Prabhupada actually...
I'm convinced of Krishna consciousness only through back to Godhead. That is the final word for me. Back to Godhead, back to Godhead, back to Godhead. That magazine, that is the which influenced me all my life.
Yeah.
And another song influenced me very much. That was this George Harrison, "Oh Krishna, I am looking for you." Have you know that song? Have you heard that song ever? The Krishna Beatles song. Krishna, I am looking for you.
Oh, that's Lakshmi Shankar, Ravi Shankar, Lakshmi Shankar,
not Ravi Shankar. There is the Harrison.
George Harrison?
No, it's also Lakshmi Shankar is singing.
Yeah. No, singing afterwards. It was the Harrison originally. Oh. It was the Harrison song, and it was so beautiful song, and I was so much influenced. I have heard it many times. It was also the Danish TV. The Danish radio, and then Harrison Ping, and even in Eastern, in Mayapur, I've heard it there.
Yeah.
Though it is not a spiritual song, but it's a beautiful song.
Yeah.
Please try.
It is a spiritual song.
Please try to listen to it. I said to all the Mataji here, try to get a hold of that Harrison.
My Sweet Lord.
My Sweet Lord. But that is another version of Krishna. Originally it was a Krishna version, and then it was made it a little Christianized because it doesn't look nice. And then My Sweet Lord.
Prabhupada, actually, if you can say something about My Sweet Lord, it was actually Prabhupada who gave the idea to George Harrison to make this song.
Naturally.
George Harrison met Prabhupada in '76. Prabhupada actually came to London at that time. He came to the London Manor.
Yeah.
And there, George Harrison, who had, of course, he had donated the London Manor. Prabhupada was so happy with him. So there he met, George Harrison came to see Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada considered him such an important person that Prabhupada gave instruction at that time to his servant that if I'm sleeping, he went in to take rest. Then come and wake me if George comes.
Yeah.
Normally, even if the Queen had come, she would have had to wait for Prabhupada taking his afternoon nap. But he said that and actually came when he was taking a rest, and his servant Harisori went in and actually told Prabhupada, George is here. And then Prabhupada, instead of coming out, he just let him come into his resting room.
Do you know the story? My Sweet Lord is the first version of of Beatles, and that was then when it was known everywhere among the ISKCON society and everywhere in the world.
That time it became the biggest hit in the world. Yeah. Actually, Prabhupada sat down at that time, and
no, I'm telling you the next story. Next story is that when it was known to everywhere, all over the world, next story was that, and then his manager, Beatles manager, told him, let us make some money out of it because he became so famous. And then My Sweet Lord became also the Hare Krishna. Oh, that is the way.
Yeah. So Prabhupada actually was talking and gave him the idea for this song, which actually became, to my knowledge, is the biggest single ever. Is that true?
No, it is not big single over. It is a big success.
Anyway, let me finish now. Sorry.
The big one.
As far as I know, it became the biggest single ever, and that influenced Prabhupada had the vision for making such a song. Actually, in one sense, it's very mantra-like song. It's only repeating the same sentence and then two sentences repeated, and there's a Hare Krishna mantra in the middle of the whole thing. And Prabhupada had the idea for this song. George Harrison made it, and it became such a popular song. I think, as far as I know, it was at one point the biggest single ever, and so many devotees became attracted because of that song. It was so good. So, but also we see that Prabhupada, he was dealing with these incredibly famous people. I mean, only those who lived in those days know actually how influential and famous they were. It was actually the Beatles. The world was, they were the most powerful people in the world in one sense. Prabhupada was dealing with them. Somehow they attracted to Prabhupada. And he was dealing with it, like, in one sense, like, very respectfully, because that actually, this is Prabhupada. Anyone who has even fame or money or influence, this is actually Krishna's potency. That should be, some special respect. So he did that, gave some special respect. But then, at the same time, he was dealing with it like some other young boys. And, was going on?
Can I say something? This is where, it's not an offering, but it's,
No, you're not talking about, the offering is later.
So, sometimes, I've had a dream too about Prabhupada. So I'd like to share that. Some of you probably know it, but sometimes it's when you are new to ISKCON and to Krishna consciousness, you're not quite aware of the meaning of the deities, because deities means embodied. And we know Krishna is in this form, but what about the Murti form of Prabhupada? That's perhaps a little bit more difficult to understand. And when I was new, I was in Sydney in King's Cross, and these deities are very special. There's nice stories behind it, but there's a certain mood with this Radha Gopinath deities there, and also with this Murti of Prabhupada. So I was wondering, when I first came, who is this man sitting at the back of the temple? And I wasn't quite aware that it wasn't a real man the first time. But I thought, geez, he's sitting still a long time. And then I could see when I went closer that it wasn't. It was of plastic or whatever it's made of. Anyway, over time I decided to ask, well, who is he? And someone said, oh, that's Prabhupada. And I said, well, why do you have a statue? And they said, oh no, Prabhupada's there. Prabhupada's in that form, and he is there. And I thought, okay. Because devotees throw things at you without realizing. When they make certain statements, they don't always make sense to people who don't know much. So I was told that Prabhupada in this form was actually there. And he never moved an inch, and he was plastic. And I thought, this is getting a little weird. So after some time, I was looking at him when we had kirtan, because we were, with the ladies used to stand around Prabhupada often, and I kept, meditating so much on this. Who is he? Is he there? And and then I had a dream one night because I couldn't quite get my head around the whole thing. And I was standing in kirtan in the dream, and I was looking at Prabhupada. The other devotees had their attention towards the deities at the front of the temple. And I was looking at him, and then I could see that he was changing. And he actually changed into the person, Prabhupada, from this Murti form. And I could actually see the hairs on his arms and, his hair and that. And then he got off the Vyasasana. And I'm just in shock, absolute shock, standing there. And I was like, and he just got off down the steps and walked up and took darshan of the deities. And I'm like, can anyone see him? And they're not hearing me, of course, because I'm actually thinking of this in the kirtan. And they're just, Prabhupada looking at the deities, not looking at Prabhupada who's actually walking amongst them. And after I had this dream, then I realized that this form of Prabhupada is very special. And it's not just a statue, it's not just something we dress up just like the deities and think that he's not there. It's also why when we have Bhagavatam class or later on, when we read, we give Prabhupada glasses and we treat this Murti form as we would Prabhupada, and that will help us, just like when you serve the deities, that helps you gain an attachment to Prabhupada. Some gain an attachment naturally through reading his books, but also the Murti form is a very special And which is why we also, it's very lovely when we have abhisheks and can actually bathe the large form of Prabhupada. So I just want to share that with you because sometimes, we just see Prabhupada sitting here and we ignore him a little bit because we don't understand perhaps what the importance or the significance of being able to serve Prabhupada and more people as well. Thank you.
Prabhupada, we about ready now to...
So for the next point of the...
Yeah, we'll offer the Vyasapuja book to Prabhupada.
Maybe a few of the others can... Otherwise should we just take it out immediately?
Yeah. Whatever is practical.
And there are two things. The top of the it's coming out top.
Så vi ska ta början. Vi